try to increase the level of execution, see if we can improve from that standpoint. We'll add a couple new things, that we didn't maybe look at last week, just to take a look at them on the field and see how that goes. But for us, it's just going to be that constant improvement, the overall operation. Hopefully that, goes off better than it did last week, and then the on-field performance too. So.
How's it going for you? Are you up to game speed yet after one game?
Yeah, definitely not. No, I mean, we need all the preseason games we can get here, so I'll take them. I'll take them all.
Coach Carrion made quite a little bit of a show last week. What do you expect from him? Maybe give the home crowd a little sizzle on Friday night.
Sure. So I think the big thing for us will be all of the players to just get better than what they did last week. So I think hopefully all of us can improve a little bit there.
Stafford to be one of those players out there.
I mean, everybody's going to be ready to go. So, the entire team is told from day one for all preseason games, make sure you're prepared and ready to go. And whatever the situation is and it unfolds, however it is, we'll handle during the game. But, the unique thing about preseason that's really important, we try to stress to the guys is whether you're in, not in, start, don't start, come in later, is just you mentally have to prepare yourself for that grind, that full 60-minute grind, and be into the game and handle the adjustments and go through it from a mental standpoint, because that is exhausting, just in those games itself. So sometimes you may pull off on some of the physical part of it, but the mental part of it, we're really trying to push through all 60 minutes and see if we can prepare and get ready to go so that when we do get to the regular season, we have an advantage there.
Did you discuss with Matthew much whether he needs the reps or not? Like, does that discussion come into play, whether you decide to play him or not?
Sure. We discuss with all the players, as we go through the course of the week, and, we kind of look at the development of practice, and obviously being in a situation where we've had some opportunity to go against two teams here the last several weeks. Those reps as we get through it might look a little bit different, but the game itself, again, we'll as coaches, we'll decide for all the players exactly what they need and what we feel as a team we need to have, because it's really about everybody kind of working together more than just the individual players.
Ziggy has been taking a few reps, lined up a little closer to the ball than he typically would. I'm just curious what you like about his skill set playing inside a little.
Sure. I think he's obviously he's a tremendous player and causes some different issues across the board. So get an advantage or get an opportunity to look at him in some of those different alignments, I think is good for us. I don't really know what it's going to shape out to be when we get to the regular season, but from a standpoint of just giving him some different ways to pressure an offense or put the offense under duress is always a good thing for us. So he's long. He's a really long guy. He's very strong, and he has a real good quickness about him too, which, when you can match him up against different offensive linemen across the board, you can get some advantages there.
Player is a guy that you went and in an attempt to kind of revamp that linebacker position, get some size there. Just curious what you've seen from him throughout.
I think he's really improved a lot in the defense itself. Obviously a little bit different than what he was used to before, but he's a big guy, he's long, and he can kind of do a couple different things really well. So someone like that is is great. You can move him around and kind of put pressure on the offense to identify where he is and where he's at from that standpoint. I think the best thing he's done is just, again, continually every single day showing up to grind it out and try to improve and get better, which he has. He's learned the concept of the defense. When you have players that have to be in multiple positions, it definitely becomes more of a conceptual learning, and some guys can do that and some guys can't, and I'd say that he's done a great job from that big picture kind of learning atmosphere and understanding that's not just it's not just a position name, it's the spots on the field and how do those interchange with themselves. So that's been pretty good for him.
To Chris's question just for a second, when you have a player with skill level of Avanza that's clearly part of the opponent's game plan, how important is it to kind of move him around to make sure they don't exactly know where he's coming from or can't game plan specifically for where he's coming from?
Sure. I mean, I think when we get to those moments of week in, week out game plans, and we look at opponents and how to try to attack them, you'll certainly try to do that with a number of different players. How can you put as much pressure on an opponent's offense as possible as opposed to not? Some weeks, you're not going to want to do that because you feel that whatever the situation is or the matchup is doesn't call for it, or, in a particular case, maybe it's more complex from a coverage standpoint, so you're not going to really mess with the front. Maybe it's a week where the front's going to adjust a little bit more than the coverage. It'll keep moving from that standpoint. And I think it's a great opportunity for us now in camp and as we get going to really find out what every player's best skill sets are so that we can use them in different ways when we get to that point.
How much do you expect the starter to play, more or less?
Yeah, again, we'll just kind of see how it goes in the game. And, sometimes it's really hard to just say, hey, it's going to be this or that. The flow of the game is important. The understanding of what we're doing. The series, how long they go depends on some of that too. So we'll see when we get to the game.
You looking forward to playing at home first time? Forward to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great. Obviously got a lot to go through and get used to from that standpoint too. I'm sure at some point we'll take a moment and just kind of, soak it all in. But, really for myself, it's just getting used to being at, our home stadium and the logistics of getting to the game and, the pregame and all of the things I talked about last week with your routine. We got an opportunity last week to work on the routine on the road, which has different aspects to it of travel and the hotel and, getting set up and then kind of having to have meeting rooms on the road and, get over to the game itself. A little bit, obviously, of a different situation here. So getting into that routine for the home game is what I'm really kind of most intrigued about to find out. I'm sure there's going to be things that I'm going to want to modify by the time we get to the next situation with Cleveland. So obviously excited to be home with the fans. That's going to be the most important thing. So be real excited to see everybody out at the stadium.
How much time have you spent at Ford Field just to get used to the locker room and sideline? I mean,
yeah, definitely something, I tried to get down there in the spring. We went down a couple of times to really kind of get the layout and take a look at it from that standpoint and really, almost do a walkthrough session there, just myself, to see where everything was set up so that would be familiar when you got down there for, for the game itself.
Now that you've seen the kickoff new rules implemented both in the game and then at least somewhat live in a couple practices, what have you learned? What kind of adjustments need to be made from how they were previously done?
Sure. I definitely think, it'd be interesting to see how everybody does it, but, personnel is going to be a big one right away. I think with some of those blocks that initially were set up in the old rule where you could have some bigger guys, borderline, the big athletic guys that could move a little bit in space, but had a pretty defined role, and you could get some pretty good divide in the in the kickoff coverage standpoint from a return deal, but definitely it's a space game. You need some speed on the field. You need to be able to handle some of the different movement that the kickoff coverage team is doing, and then obviously from a ball handling situation in the back end. I think that's going to be the biggest kind of, when we get to the regular season, biggest kind of adjustment everybody's going to have see what type of kicks are coming at us. I think everything's kind of vanilla right now. It's pretty basic, and I don't think anybody's going to show anything too much too soon. But when we get to the season, it'll be interesting to see with as talented as the kickers are, in this league. I think there's some different things they can do there to put a lot of stress on the return team.
How much, now that you've kind of gone through it too, how much do you think that might affect roster construction when you're making cuts?
Yeah, I think for us, I don't know if the one special teams area will affect the overall roster situation. I think in the end, we're always going to try to make the best decisions as a team, and make sure we have the best players on the roster overall that'll help us win in all facets of the game. Might put a little bit more emphasis on a particular position group, but I don't know if the overall numbers will change from that standpoint. Okay, all right, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.